Hey, True Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. I've been meaning to do a post on net neutrality. This is something our government has been working on for the better part of the last decade, and they finally made a decision last week on February 26th. Of course, the date of the decision is all full of coded numerology. We'll get into all that. I want to start, though, by just looking at this headline right here: Save the Internet. And it makes you go, well, what's to save? You know? Save the internet sums to 68 and 77 with the S exception using Pythagorean gematria. The American meridian's the 77th meridian. Founding fathers equals 77. The Pentagon is 77 feet tall. So this is a very important number in Washington, D.C., 77. Save the internet. But the numerology and gematria for the date is actually much more interesting. Let's first notice that the net neutrality plan that has been enacted by the FCC, or the 633, is 322 pages long. And what do we know about that number? There's not too many things good in our nation's history that have to do with 322. Indian Massacre, Stamp Act, Obamacare, and many other negative things. So this bill, in terms of measuring things by the time of the 114th Congress, which we're in, look at this. The 114th Congress was voted on November 4th. This bill passed February 26th, 114 days later. 114 days from November 4th is February 26, 2015, the date the FCC enacted this. That's also 3 months and 22 days later for the 322-page plan. Further proof this is not a coincidence. Look at what net neutrality equals in English gematria. It equals 1104, a lot like the date November 4th. February 26th, the date it passed, is the 57th day of the year, with 308 days remaining. November 4th is the 308th day of the year, with 57 days remaining. Look at that. February 26th is the 57th day with 308 remaining. November 4th is the 308th day with 57 days remaining. These dates are reflections of each other, and they're coded into the passing of this bill. Isn't it crazy to think? It shows that all this stuff is pre-planned. It's not as the media presents it, as the FCC just finally passed it. It's been planned to pass on this date. And since when, that's hard to say. Possibly since the beginning of the internet. So, the question becomes why? Why are we getting net neutrality right now? Clearly, it's part of the bigger picture going on. The spy state being built. Surveillance. Cameras everywhere. Data tracking. You know, it's been going on. Before Barack Hussein Obama was the president, he was on the campaign trail saying we couldn't vote for immunity for the telecommunication companies that had been collecting and holding our data, violating our rights. But then when it came time to vote, Obama voted the opposite way of his rhetoric, showing you what type of person he really was. He'll say the right things, and then his actions will be the opposite. I want to point out real quick that the gematria of internet is just like blood moon and equinox. And I just did a post on this. I admit, this could just be a coincidence right here. Or this could be something about how all this is tied together. Because this legislation is passing in the time of these blood moons and equinoxes. We're very close to this special equinox. So perhaps it isn't just a coincidence. Perhaps this is really how it's all scheduled. The biggest part of this thing, this 322-page plan, is that the internet is now considered a public utility by our government. Think about this. Public utilities, because they're controlled by the government, it allows for wide-ranging changes to be made at once, such as prices for fuel, energy usage. The same could be true of the internet. For example, they might hit us with propaganda that ISIS or some terrorist group or some threat to the United States has gained some sort of ability through the internet. Thus, they must limit our ability to express our own opinions or something of the sort, They need to limit communication because of the threat of terrorist voices. I mean, look at what they're doing to us right now. They're showing that girls and young children are being recruited and swindled into going over to Syria. We know it's all a bunch of bullshit. And when I say we know, I'm talking about those of us who are awake, but not the masses. So they can continue to sell lies like this and build the narrative to one day create enough of a reason or a justification to completely shut out voices such as mine and all those who are doing the kind of work to try to get out truth, to make a better world. That's what this is about. Making this the public utility gave them further ability to control the internet and eventually limit free speech and everything else that makes the internet good. Let's just take a moment to listen to Senator Al Franken explain why he's in favor of net neutrality. If you listen to him, his reasons are mostly good. He doesn't talk about it becoming a public utility. He mostly talks about keeping the mega corporations from making a better internet for them and a worse one for everyone else. Unfortunately, with this net neutrality, what it's eventually going to do is just make a worse internet for everyone. So let's just take a minute to listen to how this is presented by mainstream politician. Also keep in mind that Franken is a 33 name. That said, I think Al Franken, for the gang of 33, is not all that bad. Here we go.
Here now, fresh off his re-election victory, Senator Al Franken. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you.
Good to see you in studio. You are a proponent of what's called net neutrality,
Yes.
which, in its most simplified terms, is treating internet content equally.
Right.
No fast lanes, as
Right.
they say, for the big Amazon or
Whoever can afford
to pay for a fast lane in
Right.
broader width, and just a startup, all treated the same.
Exactly.
What is it that is broken?
Nothing.
So if nothing's broken, why is the government wanting to fix it?
Well, what's broken is that the current FCC has suggested going to paid prioritization or fast lanes. So let's go back to what net neutrality is. All content is treated neutrally. It travels essentially at the same speed, if you will, so that CNN's website, a blog from a blogger in Duluth, Minnesota, travels at the same speed. New York Times their website travels at the same speed. That's the way it's been from the beginning, and we want to keep it that way.
If Netflix wants you not to have a little circle in your house when you're looking at Netflix, it could pay more and get on in the fast lane, as it were.
Yeah, and let me tell you why this is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea to have a fast lane. I'll give you an example with YouTube. Before YouTube, there was this thing called Google Video that Google had, and it wasn't very good. The guys who started YouTube were three guys over a pizzeria in San Mateo, California. It created a superior product, YouTube, and it traveled at the same speed as Google Video, and people liked YouTube better. So YouTube won because it was better. And a few years later, Google bought YouTube for $1.65 billion. Okay, so this was three guys above a pizzeria. Facebook was started in a dorm room at a college. We want that's the innovation that we have seen in on the internet since the very beginning. It's always been net neutrality has always been there.
So, what about the argument that this now takes the internet providers, the Comcast, the AT&T, and gives them no real reason to innovate? That they will hold back on expanding the band.
That's
what about
baloney.
that argument?
That's baloney. They've been doing this all along. They've been doing this since the beginning of the internet. This isn't going to stop. All this stops them from doing is make a whole bunch of extra money. But this is not going to stop them from wiring the country.
I want to. This has obviously entered the political realm. We saw the president weighing in on it this past week. I wanted to read you something from an op-ed that Senator Ted Cruz wrote about the issue. Okay. Net neutrality is Obamacare for the internet. It would put the government in charge of determining internet prices, terms of service, and what types of products and services can be delivered, leading to fewer choices, fewer opportunities, and higher prices. Government-regulated utilities invariably destroy innovation and freedom. Your reaction?
He has it completely wrong. He just doesn't understand what this issue is. We've had net neutrality the entire history of the internet. So when he says this is the Obamacare, Obamacare was a government program that fixed something that changed things. This is about reclassifying something so it stays the same. This would keep things exactly the same that they've been. And the pricing happens by the...
All right, so anyway, that was enough. Al Franken essentially said the government's always had net neutrality, and the point of this is to always keep it that way. But the fact that they made it a public utility seems to be what they slipped in, and why all this coding is on top of it. Of course, 322 is associated with negative things, as is 114. This has to do with assassination. So maybe this is the beginning of the death of the internet as we know it. All right, until next time, Truth Seeker.